Can you see me?
When Khushwant was at the Illustrated Weekly, he was the first editor who ever published my poems, so this one is one that I wrote for him. Acid-tongued mischief maker, spotlight stealer, story stalker, salt in the wound, piss taker, punchline grabbing, headline hogger. Not nice, not a nice man to know. Spit in the eye, straight talker, shaker upper, elbow in the ribs, ego breaker, bawdy, shameless, gossip monger, whiskey guzzling, guzzle lover. Not nice, not a nice man to know. Of all the Sikhs he was seeker, pricker of pride, poker, and pecker away at the accepted order, sparing neither man nor God. Not nice to know, not a nice man at all. Half his heart in Lahore, half in Amritsar, 1 foot in Delhi, 1 in the gutter, son of a gun, and says Soba Singh, malice towards one and all. If you're not expected, don't ring his bell. If you expect to be respected, go to hell. Not a nice man to know, I know. But I wish that I had known him longer. And I wish there were more like him in the world. Not nice to know, but they don't grow on trees, people like him. So it's worth remembering Khushwant Singh. Not nice, but he took us all under his wing. The young, the outspoken, the runaways, the rebels and poets, the broken things. And this is why we gather to sing of him, while he's laughing up there in the place he didn't believe in, drinking a peg or 3 with the boss, who's still not the boss of him. So here's to the man who we know is not nice to know, but we want to know and go on knowing. Khushwant, Khushwant, Khushwant Singh.
Thank you very much indeed. Welcome to the 3rd session of the Khushwant Singh Literary Festival, London. I think all of us who witnessed and listened to the last session will join me in thanking Victoria Schofield and Javed Jabbar for sharing evocative memories of their separate friendships with Benazir Bhutto. Both Victoria Schofield and Javed Jabbar belong to a diminishing breed who knew Benazir Bhutto personally. And like the Bhuttos, they're a dying breed. Khushwant Singh, I tried to find references for Benazir, but the only thing that I could come across was his review of her niece's book, Songs of Blood and Sword by Fatma Bhutto, in which he described the Bhuttos as a gruesome tale of intrigue, treachery, treason, violence, and cold-blooded murder. He, commenting on the politics of the subcontinent, Khushwant Singh said, incidentally, I've also added a new word to my vocabulary, which fits both India and Pakistan. It is saprophytic, which means feeding on decaying organic matter. Both nations rely on that, what that is rotten in their past. I think we can move beyond that and move to the present. And in this, we're delighted that at this session, we have SYED SHAHEEN CHISTI, who will be talking to Divya Dutta. SHAHEEN CHISTI belongs to the Khwaja Muinuddin Chishti Sufi family of Ajmer Sharif. Since the age of 13, he has lived in London. His book, The Granddaughter Project, is built around 3 unlikely female characters: Helga, a Holocaust survivor; Kamla, a Bengali escapee from an unhappy, abusive marriage; and Lynette, a Caribbean who came to London in the banana boat 1950s. He uses London's Notting Hill Carnival as a backdrop to their individual stories. Divya Dutta is an actor, an author, and a poet. A National Award winner, she has acted in more than 100 feature films in Hindi and Punjabi. Incidentally, she also acted in Khushwant Singh's Train to Pakistan. Her memoir, Me and Ma, published in 2017, was one of the most talked about books in that year. Her first poem, titled Jab Sab Theek Hoga Na, published recently, was inspired, if anything could be, by the lockdown. Divya this year received Filmfare's OTT Award for Best Actress in Supporting Role for Drama Series. She continues to act, to write, and to inspire others. So now I'll hand over Shaheen to you, Divya.
Thank you, Fakir. Thank you, Fakir. Wonderful. How are you, Divya?
I am good. A very good evening from India to all of you at the Khushwant Singh Lit Fest London. बहुत सारे नमस्कार, आदाब, सलाम सबको और बहुत सारी दुआएं. And I just want to first say about my association with Khushwant Singh Lit Fest. First of all, with Khushwant Singh ji, because I was introduced to that world through this film called Train to Pakistan, and that's where I met him first. And what an amazing bond I had with him, which I'll probably talk about later. And when my book released in 2017, Me and Ma, which is again about my relationship with my mother. And since we are talking about no man is an island, so there's like, you know, just staying united, staying together, being, you know, that relationship that I had with my mother. The same thing I found in somebody I'm going to introduce today. And my first was very special, being at the Khushwant Singh Lit Fest, Kasauli. That was the first launching Lit Fest for me, and it was very special. And today I introduce all of you to another debutant in this beautiful Lit Fest. He is a British Indian author, and he's a world peace advocate, and also he's a descendant of the Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti, the revered saint that we have, and whose shrine is in the Ajmer Sharif. And I have a huge connect with Ajmer Sharif, which again I'm going to talk about with Shaheen Saab later. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to the Khushwant Singh Lit Fest London, Shaheen Chishti Sahab and his book, The Granddaughter Project.
Thank you, Divya. That was very, very good introduction. How are you?
I am good. And how are you?
Yes, I'm in your city, very close to you, not very far from your house, I believe. So yes, I'm feeling great.
It's so strange. I mean, being in these kind of lockdown situations, at least we are meeting virtually, but you're right here close to me.
Absolutely. I'm only 2 doors away from you, basically. Yes. And I even know what you had for lunch. So that's even better.
So I must tell these people, I mean, this man who's a British Indian is so Indian at heart that he could smell the curry that was being made in my house. So that was amazing, Shaheen Saab, really nice. But let's talk about you and your roots here in Ajmer. I believe you left Ajmer when you were 13 or 15, and then you've been in London for about 3 decades.
That's right. That's precisely right. I've been there 37 years now in total.
Wow.
So yeah, long time. Yes. Coming back home from home.
Yes. But it's nice to just be amongst an audience, which is a mix of all of us, like from London, from India, from the world over, watching you here with your book, and you're making a debut with that one, The Granddaughter Project. So बहुत बहुत मुबारक आपको उसके लिए. And yes, and I would also like to actually say a big hi to Rahul Singh and to Nilofer for having us here today and for this session. So I just want to start off with just asking you, Shaheen Saab, ki there must be some things that, I mean, we've been talking about.
पहले तो आप शाहीन साहब drop कर देते हैं. Let's have a casual chit chat. Yeah? We're from the new generation of India, so let's talk about Shaheen and Divya.
Okay, I'll take a bit of a moment for that. Right. So yeah, I'm saying आपके बारे में हमने बहुत कुछ जाना, पढ़ा, सुना, and I would just like to know a little more that people would probably like to know about Shaheen Chishti, which probably we don't know.
So Shaheen Chishti likes to listen to a lot of Indian music. He's fed on Indian music basically. I have lived in England for 37 years, but I still listen to Indian music from the 60s and 70s and 80s. That's
Amazing.
like food for me. And you can very easily find me on the weekends walking around the parks of London if the weather is good with my Indian music on and listening to it for hours. 6th of March was an important day in London. It was a very sunny day, and I walked for 7 hours really. And I listened totally to Indian music, and it was really happy with that. And yeah, I like my music. I like my walk. I like my culture. I like my Indian food. So I've kept a lot of Indianness in me, if I may say so. But yes, I have learned a lot of good things from England as well.
I'm sure. I mean, of course, it has to be a balance between both. And since we are talking about no man is an island, it has to be a combination of everything getting united together. Yes. So, and you seem to be a you seem to be a man of lots of emotions, I guess. So, apne bare mein, just tell us something which is a side of you, an emotional side of you.
I don't like giving up on things that easily. Sometimes वो अच्छा भी होता है, sometimes खराब भी होता है. I never give up on things. My inspiration was my uncle, and basically he never got scared of death. He always used to say, "I'm never scared of death," and I always said to him, "I'm never scared of losing." So we both had this principle, and I never really give up. I don't know why, but sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. In personal life, perhaps it's bad. But आप भी बताइए ना आपके बारे में. What is the main thing about you, Divya? You come from this famous city, Ludhiana, so I want to know about it all.
Well, yes, I'm a Punjaban to the core, and that's also been my connect with Khushwant Singh Saab. We spoke a lot in Punjabi, and I mean, I've been to their house many times and learned many things from him. Also, vis-a-vis, I mean, he introduced me to Amrita Pritam.
Right.
I remember we were talking about singing just now,
yes.
And there was we had taken this poem from Amrita Pritam ji, Varisham, Ajakha Varishano Kit Kabra Vichon Bol.
Wow.
And I was like, who has written this? And I was pretty young, I was 18.
Yeah.
And he introduced me to her and her works and everything. To date, I remember that. So anyway, the session is not about me. Today, it's about you. And let's just come back to the subject and about the Granddaughter Project. First of all, tell us, how did you think about writing the Granddaughter Project?
Well, I think the book was in my mind for decades. When I was growing up in Rajasthan, where I originate from, I saw women carrying, this pot of water and walking for 20 odd miles or kilometers as they were in those days. And I felt a real sense of belonging to those women. And from then, this, what I call, something came in my mind that I had to kind of write something for women, because I knew that the society that we live in is not fair. And I needed to make a point. Now I made a point. I'm going to keep making that point through my writing, because I like to focus on few things. And one of the main things is the women empowerment part. And I think especially in our societies, it's very important. I've had the privilege of having lived in both societies, a slightly advanced society and one is developing society. So I think it kind of makes me think where we can make improvements. And that's why I've written the book.
So if I may ask, what is the theme of the book? And the title is very interesting, The Granddaughter Project. What got you to have this title and, the story behind it?
Well, the story behind that title was that I was going to write 4 characters, but the publisher decided to drop one character, which was South African. Sorry, any South Africans listening out there, and apologize for that. And I was going to call it 4 Seasons. But after a lot of deliberation, it was decided that the Granddaughter Project would be the ideal name for it, because I was telling a story from a granddaughter perspective, so that they can learn about the characters in the book, which were their grandmothers, and the mistakes and horrible things that happened to them. So that's what I wanted to highlight, really, and start the conversation through that.
So just elaborate a bit on the 3 women that you have written about, and how it impacted the granddaughters, and what is the lesson that it's taken back?
Well, certainly, I always felt, being a good student of Indian history, that Bengal famine wasn't covered greatly in literature. So I tried to cover that. That was our Holocaust, obviously, and more than 5 million people perished who couldn't have food. So obviously I wanted to cover that, and that led me to develop that character of Maya through the various streets of how she immigrated to Calcutta, what abuse she had to put through, how she survived. And but at the same time, it was a strong character which survived the times, and she raised a family. And then after that, basically, it was also then I took the book into Austria, which is basically the character of Helga, as you may know, and you appreciated that book. It's about Holocaust, how the life for them changed from being a normal life to being kicked out of their homes and being raped and so on and so forth. And in terms of Holocaust, also I read about Holocaust quite a lot, but what did not come through from Holocaust previously was the SAS soldiers' atrocities towards Jewish women. So I tried to cover that. And finally, I went to school in Holland Park, which happens to be the next area from Notting Hill Gate, and I had very good friends in the school, and I sort of read about Notting Hill Carnival, which in a way led to race riots, but at the same time gave birth to one of the fantastic festivals we have in London on the bank holiday weekend,
I've been there.
Notting Hill Carnival. So I think I was an annual pilgrimage for me when I was in London every year. So I tried to cover those things which then highlighted the issues that the grandmothers suffered and what they had to put up with. And then I sort of did a bit of research and I tried to link it up to the granddaughters. So I twisted the story to so that the granddaughters find the letters and that they discover about their grandmothers. And the concept of the tree was from my earlier days in India, because tree is a shade. So if you read the book in the beginning, it's about the tree, and tree is what also gives us tulsi, and we use tulsi quite a lot in Indian culture. And I try to simulate that and write from a tree perspective that it gives us a shade. So as for a woman, she provides a shade. She holds a society, and she's evergreen, and she's growing in a different direction. That's what I try to talk about in the beginning of the book.
Any particular reason that you took up the communities that you took up? I mean, apart from, of course, they've not been really spoken about, like the famine or the Holocaust or the Notting Hill riots, but any other reason that you chose these particular communities to speak about?
No, I just felt that they were the compelling reasons these were the big massacres that happened, and I just wanted to highlight by joining hands with people so that we can pass our message. We can highlight the suffering. I mean, the Holocaust, what happened to Helga. I mean, when I did the research on it, I mean, I was reading it. I actually, to be honest with you, I was depressed for a few days. I had to go to the gym to get in the shape and to walk a lot to get out of that mode. And, as your great actor, Mr. Dilip Kumar, he used to do sad roles in Bollywood, as you may know him. And he had to have some challenges as well in order to overcome that. It was quite tough to write about stuff, especially Bengal famine and Holocaust. I felt that, and obviously burning of houses in Notting Hill, which now happens to be one of the most leafy and expensive suburbs of London. So things change with time, but it was quite it affects you. You write something, then it affects you, and then you are in your own thinking for a couple of days. What exactly was this that we try to discuss and try to write about? And I think it was really quite daunting. At times I did feel down, and I had to cheer myself up.
It actually is. Since you mentioned that, it is a process, it's a journey you take on, and it can impact you many ways without you realizing it, actually. I mean, as you mentioned, Dilip Sahab, when he was doing he was called the tragedy king when he did those movies that he did, and he was so good with his emotions. But then he had to take a break. He was told to do some comedy films as a therapy, and that's when he did Ram or Sham, and he did Kohinoor, which were like comedy movies. And I think I have brought back home many characters like that, and I didn't know why I was crying when I came back. I just did a film on marital rape. And I came back home and I was howling, and I didn't realize why I was howling. I mean, I've been here enough to just keep the character away, but sometimes you just bring it back. So I can imagine when you're writing about three women who've gone through like a lot of stuff vis-a-vis their men in their life and suffered a lot and still been winners and emerged winners. It is a story that you travel with, you hold hands with it.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I really like your role in what's the movie that was on Bhag? What was that? Farhan Akhtar. Yeah, I thought you played brilliant in that. You were exceptionally good. And
that again was, I think, a story about a woman which is very different from me, because it was somebody who doesn't really speak. She was always expressing through her tears, be it happiness or be it sadness in her life or anything, all emotions through the tears. I actually had no dialogues in the film. So.
Yes, I know. But I was reading about your extract about your wonderful book that you've written, and you are an empowered lady in India and empowered by your mother. And I was very privileged to have spoken to you as well, and we rehearsed yesterday. So it's amazing. You are a model for not only for Ludhiana, but I'd say all of Punjab. The girls watching out there should follow into your footsteps. You've done really well. Good luck. God bless you.
Thank you. Means a lot. But yes, you're right. I think parents, as you've written in the end of your chapter, to all the daughters and all the mothers you've written, I really connected with that, because I have seen my mother suffer. She was a single woman. I lost my father very early, but she was so good with bringing us up the best way possible. And as children, I think then you feel you don't have to let them down. You learn from their, what battles they have fought. And I think there's somewhere where I actually connect with your book very well, that you connect to your parents' stories, your grandparents' stories, and learn from them. And this is very beautifully put in your book. I come back to your book, and I'll just probably ask, you've actually chosen like female gender inequality, and all these kind of tough subjects for there's racial discrimination, everything. So is this something that with your first book you wanted to bring in these hard-hitting topics rather than write about something else?
No, I wanted to confront it. I'm always confronting on interviews topics that are difficult to deal with. I was dealing with a young lady the other day in India who happened to make my mind about why should women have two names. They always carry their father's name, and then they happen to change sometimes to their husband's name. So it is a name that second name always a man's name. So the question was why?
Yes.
There's no reason for it. So Divya is Divya. Why does she, or Shaheen is Shaheen? So we don't need. But maybe something to look for in the future. There will be other questions coming in. So we need to shake the society, and we need to be a progressive society, and the progressive societies survive, and they prosper in the long term, and that's what we need to do. Yeah, and it's a win-win actually. I always say this in interviews. It's a win-win for everyone. The government gets higher taxes if women are working. They have more revenue. They can build better India. Then there is more revenue coming in from taxes. They can build better India, better infrastructure for India, and women are empowered. Multinational companies putting the women on boards and middle management will lead to better products being developed. So far for centuries, products that women are buying are developed by men. Now women will develop the product for women, and it will lead to better market share for multinational companies, I believe. So there's a win-win for everyone here. So that's how we need to sell the idea, and I think it will be a very big win. 35% has to be the universal voice in England, in India, and in Pakistan. Whoever's watching out there, 35% to start with for women has to be the case. Universal.
Absolutely. So you have been seeing your life in London, in India. You've probably been traveling here back and forth. What are the changes that you see coming in the society vis-a-vis women?
Yeah, no, Indian society, obviously it's divided, but in many sections. So I think the Hindu society has evolved, and they're making some good progress. Women are empowered. A lot more work to be done, and I can see more Hindu society women coming out and working in the mainstream, which is fantastic, wonderful. The society that I come from, Muslim society of India, is not making that much progress, I'm afraid to say. We need to do a lot more work there. I think there are problems around the matrix syndrome, I call it, which is what we call it in England, GCSEs. And once the GCSEs are done, they are looking for a husband, for the girl especially, and she needs to be married pretty quickly. And that needs changing. That needs changing fast, because we need educated women, educated mothers who will educate their children. Otherwise, we're losing out. A lot of work needs to be done. But overall, for India and for Akhand Bharat, I say.
Yes,
United India. Yeah.
I do see progress happening here with women, but yes, it's gradual. It is,
Yeah.
But yeah, it will come of age soon, I'm sure.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to know, how long did you take in writing this book?
2.5 years. And
Wow.
my daughters, two of my daughters didn't had to put up with it. So weekends and evenings were challenging. So yeah, it was difficult process, having to keep a full-time business, as well as having to look after a young family as well. So yeah, I must say it was a tough work. Yeah.
But
Two
are
and a
you
half years.
one who needs a secluded place to write, or would you just write anywhere amongst, wherever
I,
you
I
are?
I tend to write all over the place. I had a dictaphone as well, which kind of was my help. So if I'm walking, I get a thought, I sort of like recorded it, and then I sort of evaluate it later whether that can go in the book. Now the mobile works in that fashion as well, so you can use that. So I just used to put things everywhere, and then sort of collected it sort of, let's say, Saturday or Friday night, and sort of evaluated whether that needs to go into the book.
Right. So any writer's blocks you had? I'm just curious.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who wouldn't? But nothing particular. As I said, I only was down sometimes, and that was the only thing really. Apart from that, I think I was okay. I had a lot of family support as well, so they were quite proud of what I was doing.
Yeah, but sometimes the block is your own, sometimes, because I'm writing my next book, which should come in October. But because of the lockdown, I think I had a major block. It was like writing when the shoot started. So I like my deadlines that way. So it worked only when I was on shoot.
Yeah, and in research, when you're doing the research, especially on Bengal famine, for example, that
Yes.
you tend to get that, and because obviously research is vast, you can go in through and read various people, but you have to be objective, for the readers to bring the right stuff, so that's always the case. An Indian writing about Bengal famine, he has to be objective. So that's the question I had to ask myself again and again. Am I objective? My objective of being able to present the story from Bengal famine perspective, is it correct? Is it representing everything they should do? So that was difficult for me. Yeah, same thing with Holocaust. It's something that I had to research, especially for the SAS soldiers, how they went about it, how they gathered women, how they kind of raped them, how they had children whose fathers and they didn't know about, and all that sort of thing. And obviously Notting Hill Carnival, where people would spit on women walking in the streets of London, which is unbearable now. London's the most cosmopolitan, one of the most beautiful cities in the world now. So this is completely
My
changed.
favorite place.
Wow, yes, absolutely.
A lot
Yeah.
of people.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to ask Shaheen, have you ever come across such women, or have you just, taken these women from the backgrounds?
No, I met some women, obviously, as part of my research for Notting Hill Carnival. I have a lot of friends whose parents had been part of this. So yeah, that I sort of know firsthand. Also, with the Jewish Holocaust, I have people who are the survivors who I happen to know and met with them as well. But Bengal famine, I'm afraid I had to rely on research completely. I did not meet anybody from that part, but I am traveling to Bengal later, and I'm sure I'll come across somebody, and I will sit down and have a cup of tea with them and discuss that and find out a bit more. I'm always learning.
So how did Kamla come up for you? I mean, how did the Maya, Kamla, because you've not met these women. So where did you bring them in? What inspired you to write like a story that is? That I was reading the excerpts and they're very interesting. And I really,
Thank you.
I mean, I probably would love to read an excerpt here, but pehle aapse sunenge ki kya.
Well, basically, when I was writing the story about Kamla, what was in my mind? Well, I had seen a movie called Do Bigha Zameen. I don't know whether you remember that.
Of course, who would
Right.
not?
So I had remembered what had happened and how the rickshaw came to Calcutta, and there was another later movie with Patrick Swayze and Shabana ji.
Yes.
And it was, I've forgotten the name, City of something it was called.
City of Joy.
City of Joy, I saw that. It was a movie that sort of led from Calcutta. So, those sort of things shaped my my thinking about Bengal. And I have been a great student of Bengal, and I think Bengal has played a major part in Indian literature and United India's literature, I may say, so, because including Bangladesh as well. They produce brilliant writers. They have, I hope JRG is watching this, so she can be proud of it. But I think they have tremendous writers from there, and it's evident. And Tagore, who doesn't know Tagore? So obviously, absolutely,
yes,
the pride of India.
Yes, totally. So I think I would really like to read an excerpt since we.
Please, why don't you? I would love you to read it. And your melodious voice, I may ask.
As we approached the first paddy field, Geeta threw herself to her knees. Sarva Rupe, Sarvashay, Sarva Shakti, keep running, Kamla. Samavete, Bhaya Bhaya, Trahi no Devi, Durge Devi, Namastute. I could not leave Geeta mid-prayer, so I waited, keeping my eyes on the big house in case someone came out to catch us. Go, Kamla, keep running. Geeta hauled herself up and ran with me, pulling up her sari to free her stride. What is it, Mami? Asked Bijul, a look of puzzlement on her face as we panted up the muddy path into our home. Mami has killed the Sahab, I said with a little glimmer of pride at knowing the story first. There was blood and he fell on the floor. I added. What? Cried all three of my sisters. But why, Mami? How? He hurt me, said Geeta. And he had a knife, and it all happened so fast The hut was dark in comparison to the glare of the midday sun. We had not noticed Shakti asleep in the corner. You stupid, worthless woman, he said suddenly, clambering off the straw bed and thumping Geeta in the chest. What's for us now? She didn't mean to, Pita. He was hurting her, I said, pushing myself in between my parents. Of course he was hurting her, because she's stupid, and stupid people get hurt, said Shakti, grabbing a broom from inside the doorway and jabbing my mother with it. You need to get out. I don't want the police here. Leave us, woman. Clutching her hand in her hands, Geeta backed out of the doorway, tears rolling down her cheeks. I'm going too, I said. No, Kamla, you have to stay, said Isha. No, I don't, I said. I ran out of the hut after Geeta, who was blindly zigzagging off through the soggy paddy fields. How hard-hitting is this, really?
Thank you.
I mean, look at this line when you say, of course he was hurting her because she's stupid and stupid people get hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be her vulnerability, that could be her goodness, that could be her, very compassionate self that has been taken for sheer stupidity by a man who totally looks down upon her.
Yeah. And thank you for reading it. It was so nice. It's sort of like, I'm an emotional man, as you said, so I hope
I said I could read it. You're an emotional man.
Thank you very much. I am an emotional man. Thank you.
Coming back to the emotions, I think, thank you. My pleasure. Absolutely, Shaheen. And someday I'll ask you to read my book.
Absolutely. I'll be honored to come back in October and read your book and read and invite you to London as well. Come and please, Divya, it will be good.
Pakka. No, so we were talking about your emotions, and emotions always lie in where your roots are, and your roots being in Ajmer. And I was mentioning you about Ajmer Sharif, and we were shooting in Jaisalmer, I remember. And and we had a quick backup. Sometimes suddenly they have a quick backup and they say, chalo, done. And I was a little taken aback. How come they've packed us early? And it was 5:30. And I think Ajmer Sharif is about 5 hours, or at least 4.5, 5 hours from Jaisalmer.
Yeah.
So my mother said, Chale Ajmer Sharif. I said, Mom, the dwar shuts at 8 o'clock. They said, darwaza band ho jata hai 8 baje. And so I was like, Mom, do you really want to? Because we'll go all the way and it'll be shut, and I'm shooting in the morning. We have to come back. So she's like, Mere ko lag raha hai hum pahunch jayenge. We'll reach. Let's leave now. So 5:35 we left. Shaheen, we were there in 2.5 hours. The darwaza was open for us. And when we came back, it took us 6 hours to come back. So I from that day have such a connect with that place. And constant blessings that I feel. So I feel really
Great.
connected to you. So
No,
you
that's
must have many stories as such about Ajmer Sharif, people who've come to visit there. Just tell us something about it.
Yeah, I mean, I was born in my ancestral homicide opposite the shrine. All my cousins are apparently are watching this program, so hello to everybody in Ajmer. And basically, we used to play cricket on the roofs of Ajmer Sharif Dargah, not the main compound, the other sides. And a lot of my bats were burnt by my relatives because we were not supposed to play. I remember that. And this space was a premium in Ajmer, as you can imagine. Now it's such a crowded city,
Yeah.
and we used to be all over the place. I used to attend all our functions. Many friends and relatives. We are 2,000 plus people of Chishti, so obviously we are interrelated. We have been marrying for thousands of years, and so we somehow survive. And I have a lot of friends. I used to come back on holidays from England. I used to meet them. I miss them terribly. The first 2 years in England were very tough. I remember it was like dark and cold nights, and I thought, where am I? What is this place? But yeah, no, but there are many memories. I mean, I have memories of going to Mayor School where I went. I had a good friend, Mamta, who I lost out. Apparently, she comes from Chandigarh, which is very close to you in Ludhiana. So if Mamta is watching, I was 6 and you were 4. I hope you remember me. And no, I think a lot of memories. It's such a fantastic city. I'll say it's very peaceful, tranquil, and there's a good tourism. It's good for both the religions because Ajmer is open to everybody. And its motto has always been that we love everybody, hate no one, and that's a very powerful motto to practice in life as well.
Yeah.
And I think people find tranquility, peace in the shrine, and the greats and goods and bads are all coming there all the time. And it within that mist. I mean, I remember one of my fond memories was Mrs. Gandhi coming when I was a child, and we shook hands with Mrs. Gandhi, Mrs. Indira Gandhi.
Oh,
So
okay.
I was a privilege to be there, and I was from school taking a day off. And the other memory that I have is I never skived so much from my school. There was only one person responsible for that. That was Amitabh Bachchan. Every Friday, his movies used to come, and we used to skive from my school. And we used to write a letter saying कि कुछ हो गया पेट खराब है or something like that. And we used to, because the school used to be two shifts, but younger children used to leave earlier than ours, and we used to leave. So Mr. Amitabh Bachchan Saab, you are responsible for a lot of my bad grades later on. So I skived a lot for Amitabh Bachchan. Was the greatest man for us in our
Well,
childhood.
I think Mr. Amitabh Bachchan is also kind of responsible for me joining movies because I remember tearing my mother's dupattas and saris, dancing on his songs and saying, I want to be like him. I want to be on the big
Yeah,
screen. So yeah, I think he's inspired us, most of us, I guess, in many
correct.
different ways. Your low grades are not because of that, I'm sure. So tell us, you advocate a lot of world peace. I would want to know a little about that. What all is happening on that front?
So you see, I by having a good fortune of being meeting people from other faiths, especially being born and brought up in India, the concept of Paramatma, and if you translate that in Arabic, it means Rabbul Alameen, meaning God of all the worlds,
Yeah,
right? And then you go into Judaism, then you go into Christianity. The God is one there.
yeah,
So I think, if European Union can make an economy based on culture, we can make an economy gigantic, humongous, based on one God, which is common in all these faiths, all these religions, and all these parts of the world. So I believe that I think that towards that we need to do a lot more work. We need to bring people together. We need to see each other. And India actually represents a fantastic opportunity for that. Such a multicultural society, despite all the negative press we get sometimes. It's a fantastic society. On the ground, the reality is completely different. People love each other. People get on with each other. There's no problem. So we are going to lead the world in this for sure. And I feel that interfaith in India represents a great opportunity to provide that model to other parts of the world as well. Although I have been lucky, I must say, in London as well, because we New York and London, as you may know, are the most multicultural societies you can have, or cities you can have. And I was privileged to spend 37 years in London. So I think there's a great deal that I've learned from both sides. But I believe very firmly that we need to coexist. And within coexisting, I also mean to say that we need to provide more opportunities for women. We need to make a fairer society. We need to respect each other. There are similarities and celebrations that we can celebrate together. If people are looking for difference, they will always find differences, you see. But if you're looking for similarities, you always find similarities. You always find ways to collaborate with each other and produce something wonderful. And that's what I believe in, and I want to bring people together.
That's lovely. So I'm saying, what are the immediate steps that you would think are needed for something like that?
So I have started SHAHEEN CHISTI Women Empowerment Foundation in India, where lots of hospitals are linking up with us, and they are what we are doing predominantly. Well, initially we are looking at, if I may say, breast screening issues where women find it very difficult to come forward and do any breast screening tests and various things. So we are advocating for that. Cervical cancer is another thing that we're concentrating on. Other sanitary stuff that they need, we're doing that. I intend hopefully to raise more and build schools for women, hospitals, and more importantly, the communication has to improve so women can go and represent themselves and become the 35% of the workforce that my dream is. So that's what I'm doing here. In terms of London, I am holding, hopefully COVID, barring COVID, December time. Hopefully we're hoping to have a Jewish Holocaust by SHAHEEN CHISTI exhibition in London, where we will invite prominent members of the Indian or subcontinental society, as well as basically from a Jewish society, to bring them together. And I intend to do a lot more work in women empowerment. Other books will come out, which will be soul searching, and we will deal with topics as B.R. Chopra used to deal about women's issues. I think I will try and do the same.
So which has been your favorite film of B.R. Chopra?
Well, I like Naya Daur. I'm a Dilip fan, so I'm sorry, I'm an old-fashioned guy.
No, I have to tell you a very interesting anecdote about Dilip Saab. So I was doing Bagban that time, and I was working with them, and they had a private screening of the colored Naya Daur, not the black and white, at their place. And I was one of the fortunate I was invited over there. And guess what? I met Vijayanti Malaji and Dilip Saab together, watching their own movie, cheering up at that famous race scene. It was so amazing and delightful to see the legends watch their own movie again and feel happy about it. So yes, I think Naya Daur for me as well is
Naya Daur stood out. It was a good movie, good story. B.R. Chopra was very good at that.
Yes, that's true. While talking, I just thought of asking you, like many people ask me, what are your favorite roles and what are your favorite movies that you've done? I want to ask you, which is the chapter that is the closest to you in your book?
I would say the chapter where Kamala is running away, and she's been chased by this landlord or this landowner where she works, and he continuously, physically abuses her. That part was quite painful. However, I think I think that was happening in my childhood in many parts of India, because we weren't as rich as we are now, or richer than we are now as a society, and I think things have changed for better. But that part really hit me hard. That part hit me hard because there was this no support, no one there to protect her, and she was taken advantage of by a wealthy person because he happens to have a lot of money, and I think it's something that sort of like made me think what men are like, because if I've sort of thought myself, when men think that they have everything, they have the money, they can pull or they can do anything they want, and I thought that's just not on, and that kind of resonated very strongly with me, so I think that was a part that actually was very moved by that. And I think also all three parts were quite moving for me. But that I remember that one particularly when I was writing it. So that was quite moving.
What do you think this book is going to do when it comes out? I mean, as vis-a-vis, what changes do you think it probably will bring by?
Oh, it's definitely going to allow the society to be more open about certain things that we are calling taboo subjects. It's written from that perspective. So anything and everything from women perspectives out there to be challenged, you know, and women should challenge anything and everything out there, any role, any position, anything they want to do, because this male-dominated society can only be made fairer if women come forward and challenge those things. We were talking yesterday with yourselves, and thank you for your time, and we're talking about Bollywood movies. And I did some research on it last night. You said 60%, but I found that to be 72%. So I think I'm a man of numbers. So, but I think there's a long way to go in Bollywood as well, because they have to realize that half the society, or 50.09% are women in India, right? Then are they making that many movies that cater for women subjects, women areas? That is not happening in India, and that's not been happening in India for centuries. We need to start to change that, because the audiences is half women, and if they started boycotting for a day, not watching movies, then the producers will produce what women want to see. So women have the power, so you better listen.
No, that's very well said, Shaheen. In fact, but I, as an actor, would like to tell you that you know, the roles that come by and the OTT platforms coming by, the subjects are, you know, we use that term women-oriented. Now, if we are saying we are making female-oriented films, they're kind of, you know, just differentiating it from the normal. So I'm saying now that term is not being as much used anymore. So they're saying good films and bad films that can be with a female protagonist, that can be with a male protagonist. So that kind of a thing is changing. In fact, today I had a screening in London at the BAFTA of my film called Sheet Korma. And so again, it's the so-called women empowerment. And here I'm at KSLF, so just here chatting up with you. Talking about KSLF, what do you think about your association with it, and about the Khushwant Singh legacy that we are here together on this platform?
He was an amazing writer. I think he shook Indians writing quite a lot. He was a spicy writer. I call him a spicy writer. And he wrote about things that we call taboo, and he made it spicy because he knew how to get into the Indian mindset. He was a fantastic person, and he believed in the Sufi philosophy very firmly, although he was not a very religious man, but I think he was very firm a Sufi believer. And you know, apart from all this, he really brought to India what I thought was an extremely dynamic and new way of thinking. You know, and give an example. I mean, he talked about sex, which we don't talk. Although somebody was saying in his festival that as part and parcel of our life, one side we'd say that, oh, we are the inventors of Kama Sutra, but the next time we say we don't want to talk about sex. How? But he took on those subjects. That was quite powerful. I thought that he was very brave, and he stood his ground. At times he was criticized, but he stood his ground, which every writer has a right to do, and they should. And I think he did very well in a what was, from his time, a lot more conservative society. And the other thing I liked about him was basically the Akhand Bharat principle, that he believed in united India, and he lit the candles at the Wagah border. I remember reading about it, that he went and he sort of, and also you acted with him on the train to Pakistan. So
on the book, yes.
On the book, sorry, and I'm sure we make a movie as well. So I think it's a very powerful emotions that he exhibited in Indian society, and he took on subjects which were not popular. So only a brave writer can do that, and God bless him. I'm sure wherever he is with his peg, is enjoying it.
Absolutely, I've had the pleasure of having one with him.
Well, I'm sure you did.
So no, but did you ever get to meet him?
No, my cousin met him. He came to Ajmer a few times. My cousin knows a lot of people, so he met him a few times. But I only spoke to him once, and I read a lot about him, because he was somebody who was breaking the boundaries, which is what I want to do.
Always.
Yeah, he was challenging and he was breaking the boundaries. Anybody out there should go and read about his work and how wonderful of a person he was. He really was a gem of a person. And you know, you just need to read about his work. And you know, and he had also had a very good sense of humor. You know, so he made difficult things to be digested very easily by our audiences. So I think he was unique. He really was.
I've been fortunate to have met him and spent some time with him, because I do remember this very interesting incident. We had a screening of Train to Pakistan in a place in Punjab, and so I mean, he was, what I'm trying to say, he had the sense of humor and he knew the facts and he would laugh about it. He never took it so seriously.
Precisely.
So I was sitting right next to him, totally clenched up, because this was like our film, and there was a very conservative audience sitting with us. And the first scene in the film is a lovemaking scene in Train to Pakistan. And with Train to Pakistan, the audience was there thinking that it's just about partition, but it's about a lot more. It's about a lot more, which of course, so when Kushwantji sat with me, he says, now see what's going to happen. I said, what's going to happen? He said, you and I will be watching this film. You, me and your mother will be watching this film aram se. Ye log chale jayenge. I said, what are you talking? In 15 minutes, there was like these people just started going because the lovemaking scene started. They couldn't take
I said to you, it was difficult. Yeah, there's a terrible things for her.
He was laughing about it because he knew that it probably would not be digested by many people. And yet he sat there experiencing it and making me experience it, that this is how it is. This is the society, and we talk about society the way it is. You have to accept it. But so I learned a lot of things from him that way. So that was really amazing. So yes, I mean, any last words on the book? And we turn to the questions that they're coming on my chat session here that we must throw at you.
No, I'd like all Indians to go and read about the book, the Granddaughter Project, and support it, because I think it's about women empowerment. And you know, that's what I look forward to, interacting with all the people in India. It's a privilege to be in India and be launching in 31 cities. Starting from 20th of July from Ajmer. So look forward to that. And also Akhand Bharat, you know, we will be going out there to the Bangladesh and other places as well. So look forward to interacting with everybody.
Good luck for that. I'm sure the book is going to reach where it should reach, all the hearts that it needs to reach. Good luck. And I just want to say, Jazba dil gar main chahu, har cheez muqabil aa jaye.
Wow, what a wonderful.
और सामने मंजिल आ जाए. तो आपकी मंजिल आपके सामने आए, ये हमारी दुआ है. And I would just request all the viewers who are watching us here for this session, any questions for Shaheen, please just post them here so that we can just shoot them. And the first question I do have is, as a man writing on women's issues, how did you approach their emotions through their experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough to have been brought up by a very good mother, very good sister, so I was aware of the emotions that women go through, and I was lucky enough to have women friends when I was in England. So obviously I was very close, and I saw how things evolve in relationships, or when they are in relationship, or when the relationship break, or some friends who wants to get married, or you know, or can't get married. All sorts of issues I came across, and I had diverse friends, and I had diverse friends from all over the world. So it was quite an interesting upbringing, I must say. So you know, I think I enjoyed meeting everybody, and I think it was great, and from that I learned a lot.
And that's what reflects in your words.
And personality, I guess, as well, perhaps to a certain extent, yes.
Yes. Here comes a question from Rahul saying, and where do you stand on the issue raised by people like Shashi Tharoor about the record of the British in India, in particular about the Bengal famine? Zarir Masani has a different view on the British record.
I totally agree with Shashi Tharoor. It's a black dot on the British history to have let the Indians down in a time and hour of a need. A few of my friends listening in London, they're going to have a go at me afterwards, but truth must be told. Bengal was let down. India was let down. 5 million people starved to death, and the food was diverted, as we all know, to the forces in England. So obviously, yeah, it was not fair, and we suffered. It was our Holocaust. That's where I stand. I condemn what happened. I strongly believe that was very unfair to India what happened, and I think that good people, good educated people in England recognize that, and I think they see that was a mistake and that was a fault, and that's what I say.
Another question is, what made you start the peace movement between Muslims and Jews? Why not between Hindus and Muslims? A very interesting question.
Well, Hindu society is very close to me, so I don't need to work on that. I mean, most of my friends are from India, and they believe in Hinduism, and I think I'm a firm believer of Gandhiji, who exhibited the best tenets of Hinduism, I think. So I didn't need to do much work on that. I felt there was a lot of things happening in the world on the front of a lot of friction and attacks on anti-Semitism and things like that, and some of them in France were happening, unfortunately, from the Muslim side, and I wanted to address that. And I was brought up by an uncle, as I said to you, who lived in Golders Green. It happens to be an area in London where predominantly Jewish people live. He lived there. He grew up among them. He passed on the good information to me that they believe in the same God as we do. I researched on it. I found out their prophet is our prophet. Their God is our God. So there was nothing else for me to conclude. End of the day, we go back to the Paramatma. So we are returning back to the God, and it's the same God that we're returning back to. So what are we fighting about? What are we disagreeing on? And of course, disagreements happen between people, and I want to make this point quite clear that I'm actually for two-state solution. I would like a very, very strong Palestine, and I would like a very, very strong Israel to exist alongside. And that I feel that would be done by having a good commercial relationship between two countries. Commerce will prosper. Commerce is the answer to a lot of our problems. The youths, they have employment, they are throwing stones. If they get jobs, they get busy, they write books, they study in the schools and universities, there will be no time to do these things. They'll be productive to the society, and that's why a lot of our problems are happening. And you will see that's the case everywhere in the world. Sometimes, and most of the time, commerce is the answer for it. And India is at the forefront of doing very well in that.
Very valid, absolutely. There's a question from Ajay Bhardwaj. He's asking you, because you've mentioned Akhand Bharat many times, he's saying, what is the concept of Akhand Bharat?
Well, in my mind, my father was the founding member of Ajmer's Jan Sangh party. I grew up in my first 13 years on very right-wing thinking. Dad used to have many friends. He was a founding member. So my principle of Akhand Bharat is that we lost out. We are two hands. I think three they were. And we lost them in terms of Pakistan, in terms of Bangladesh. However, we will never recover that. We need to realize that we have independent countries, we have our own countries. People have to be aligned to their countries. What will happen though? We will end up having a very good commerce relationship where we sell to them and they sell to us, and it's happening already with Bangladesh. And through that, we will be able to develop a very good relationship, which will last for centuries to come, I feel. Because I think if they depend on our namak, our salt, and we depend on their rice, we will become interdependent on each other. And I think that's the way forward. I don't think that we will win, or they will win any wars with us. I believe in peace. That's our motto for centuries, more than 1,000 years. And I think in commerce, collaboration will win the day, end of the day. Otherwise, I think that's my principle. That's what I believe in. That's what I believe in Akhand Bharat.
Well said. There's Malini Sen thanking you for acknowledging the role the British played in the Bengal famine.
Oh, I'm glad you like it. I might have lost some English friends tonight, but that's not, unless I say the better on that.
Got it. So this is a personal question. I just wanted to ask you.
Oh, I'm scared now.
No, personal question as in I would relate to it, but I'm asking you as an author. Since this book is the Granddaughter Project, and you have two lovely daughters, what is the message that you have for your daughters and for them to pass it on? I mean, what is it as a father that you'd like to pass on to your daughters?
What I would say to them, that enjoy your life, challenge everything that you can out there. There's no bar for you. I like to see you very successful, highly educated, and very, very successful careers. And there's nothing that you should be ashamed of doing that the boys do. Go and challenge the world. Go and win it, and do what you want to do. And I'll always be there. Their mother, family will always be there for behind them, but go and do whatever you want to do and do it, but do it that makes your life meaningful, and do it something that keeps you busy.
Well, cheers to that, I guess, because I think when parents say we are there, that means a lot to the children, I guess, because means a lot that you have an unconditional support and you're not being judged, and you have your parents who believe in you and your dreams, whoever you are, whichever gender you are, not necessarily males, but even girls. I remember for me being an actor, there were lots of opposition coming in, but my mother stood the ground and she said, hey, if she wants to be an actor, she will be. So yes, that matters a lot, Shaheen, that you pass this on to your daughters. And with this, I would really actually like to thank the beautiful audience who've been with us. And there are some lovely messages coming. Oh, there's another question before I go. Is your book aimed at grandmothers or granddaughters?
Well, I will say it's got a wider audience. It's actually directed at men and women both, and young and old, all, because I think that everybody can learn from the history that we tried to cover in the book, as well as the role that women had to play in those very difficult circumstances that they had to go through, whether it's Bengal famine, Jewish Holocaust, or Notting Hill Carnival. I think everybody can benefit from that. The book is just talking about what women suffered, what happened to women, and everybody can benefit from that, and that's how I would sort of interpret that.
There's another question from Paris Lamborghini. She says, "Are you going to make?" I was going to ask you this question actually. Are you going to make a film based on your book?
I have been asked. I have been asked by a couple of people about the film possibility or a web series. So I'm evaluating those options, and so we'll talk about that, and hopefully there might be something fruitful fairly soon.
And I am blocking myself for Kamla's role. I just read the excerpt.
It's my privilege to have you for Kamla's role. I mean, you did so well in the other movies, and it'll be fantastic. It'll be fantastic. I'd like to see you at Cannes one day.
Yes, surely. So there's another question which says, do you think women can be empowered only if men and society will support?
No, I don't. No.
It's a good question.
Well, it's a good question. However, no, we cannot, no longer should rely on that, because we have trusted men for centuries from time on, and it hasn't resulted in any positive things yet. Although society has evolved and is moved on for better, women have some representation, but women need to force this issue of 35% very hard and fast, and I'm going to do it to start with, but you've got to take it further, because I'm not going to be here forever. But I think they need to stand up themselves, and they are capable of doing anything in the world. So I'm just giving you the message to my daughters. I'm not going to go back on that, and I think you guys can do anything and everything out there. You can be you can fly a plane, you can fight in an army, you can make a movie, you can be the CEO of Pepsi, and what more? There are role models out there. Just go and win it. It's out there for you. Indian women out there, Pakistani women or Bangladeshi women, or whoever you are, or Jewish girls or English girls, go, and this is the world for you. There is no bar anymore. If Obama can be the president of America, next chance is for you guys to be, a woman has to be a president. Kamala is in line for it.
I feel absolutely overwhelmed hearing your words. Very inspiring, Shaheen, absolutely. And here's cheers to all the women all around the world. Here's to their upliftment, here's to their emancipation, here's to all the freedom and happiness and dreams that they have. And to your book, and to Rahul Singh, and to Nilofer Villamoria, and to Kushwan Singh Lit Fest, and to all the lovely audience that we've had today for this session. Thank you so much for being with us. Good luck for the Granddaughter Project. And I will just say, जिस राह में आप कदम रखें, आगाज़े तमन्ना हो जाए, कश्ती जो उतारे मौजों में, तूफान भी किनारा हो जाए. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Divya.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
What a wonderful session, scintillating, stimulating, and of course, inspiring. Deeply grateful to you, Shaheen Bhai, for coming up with so many novel, encouraging observations, and also about your experiences. My wife and I were privileged to visit Ajmer Sharif, and Dargah hai, wahan jaake salam kiya, and it's farz bhi hai aur khushi bhi thi. And Divya, you were in the train to Pakistan. You're also in Zara, which is also has a kind of connection with Pakistan. My reason for mentioning the train to Pakistan is when I went to collect Khushwant Singh Ji's ashes from Mala, his daughter in New Delhi, my family said to me, "Why don't you fly from Amritsar to Delhi? I mean, it's faster, etc." And I said, "No, there's a reason." And the first lines of my requiem for him were clear in my mind, which was that Khushwant Singh's last journey was by train to Pakistan. And so I caught the Shatabdi from Delhi to Amritsar and then crossed the border at Wagah. And somebody said to me, "Ye kya utha ke laaye aap?" And I said, "Listen, ashes don't need visas." And so on that note, let me just thank both of you for a particularly stimulating session. You've had almost 100 questions, which we couldn't answer at the same time. Let me conclude this, because this is the third session of the day. Just to remind people that one of the causes that was so close to Khushwant Singh Ji's heart and also to the Khushwant Singh Literary Festival is, of course, the girl-child theme. And if you analyze the 3 sessions that we've had, each one dealt with avatars of the girl-child. The first one dealt with the Devi, and we looked at ancient girl-child, if you like, the Devi as she appeared in different manifestations in the discussion that Vidya Dehejia had with William Dalrymple. In the second, a more modern one, where a girl-child who became Prime Minister, Benazir Bhutto, and there Victoria Schofield and Javed Jabbar shared memories of a common friend, Benazir Bhutto. And then you two brought us into the contemporary world. And here, the girl child, as evidenced in Shaheen Sab's book, the girl children, if you like, are brought to the fore, their traumas, their trials, and their possibilities. So let me just say that to thank you once again, and for the previous speakers as well, and on behalf of Rahul Singh, Nilüfer Bilamoria, and a host of invisible supporters and sponsors, including the National Lottery through the Arts Council in England, and an army of people who are invisible, who we do not know, but who've made this festival possible. Tomorrow's sessions will be on, and we hope that you'll be able to join us. There'll be 3 sessions. There'll be the first, and I'm going to give you the Indian Standard Time first and the British Standard Time afterwards. Between 5 and 6 will be the Indian Standard Time for the Kabir Bedi session with Sarah Jacob, and that will be British Standard Time 5 hours earlier, 12:45 to 1:45 p.m. And then at 6:30 p.m. to 6:30 to 7 p.m. we'll have Dr. Jane Goodall, who will be interviewed by Garan Rawat. And of course, everybody knows who Dr. Jane Goodall was and is. And then after that, at 7 to 7:15, we will have a winding up session with Rahul Singh. The counterpart timings for those who live in Britain, as Shaheen does, and who follow a shorter day than we do here in the subcontinent. The timings for the first session will be 12:45 to 1:45, and then the second session will follow at 2 to 2:30, and then the concluding session with Rahul will be from 2:30 to 2:45. Let me, on behalf of all of us, thank both of you particularly, and I have to say, Divya, that my wife is a complete devotee of your films. She made me, didn't make me, but I was sitting through Veer Zara, and your role came out much more forcefully than the weepies who were the heroines. But it just shows you that culture, civilization, and humanity knows no borders. What matters is the heart. And as Shaheen Bhai has said, that it's not a question of Akhand Bharat or otherwise, it is a question of humanity and of being able to live with each other and to be able to recognize the common God in each one of us. I'm reminded of a remark that was made by Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, the chief rabbi of the United Kingdom, and he said, and I'll conclude with this, If I cannot recognize God, my God, in another human being, my God stands diminished. And I think that kind of sums up the humanism that all of us are committed to, and particularly through this festival. Thank you so much indeed for being here. And thank you, Rahul and Nilufer, for giving us this platform. Thank you, and good afternoon and good night.
Good night. Thank you.